Hi, my name is Jennifer Judelia, and I'm here to talk about function and return keywords. I guess you're already familiar with this topic because these keywords are similar to what we've learned in Java and JavaScript. So when I learned about these keywords in PHP, it's not that hard anymore to understand the concepts because they're very similar with how they're used in other languages. So now let's talk about them. But before that, I want to talk about the why, when, where, and how aspect of this topic. So the why part, for me, this is important because it saves us time and effort. Like for the navigation bar, we don't have to type in the code again and again. We can just create a function and then call that function every time we need the navigation bar. And the same goes with the same thing goes with other tasks that we want the system to do, and we just call that uh, anytime you want to. And normally this is done in the model aspect of the PHP because that's where we create the functions and we call them normally in the controller. So in the rest of the slides, I want to talk about the how part, how we use this function and return keywords. So before digging deeper into that, I want to give an overview of functions. So we have basically we have the types, the built-in and the created functions. For the built-in, they are already in the system. So we don't have to type function and return keywords anymore because the system already recognizes that it's a function and returns a certain value based on the function's name. And for the created functions, these are the functions that we type in our program, and we need to put function and return keyword so the system knows that it's a function and the system will return the value that we want it to return. Now for the built-in functions, these are the example of the functions that the PHP system has. In our class, we normally use array functions. And as an example, we used it in connections.php file. And if you'll notice here, there is no function keyword and there's no return because the system automatically does that. But for the function Acme Connect, there is this keyword function and there is a return keyword as well. So since built-in functions don't have return and function keywords, let's just talk about now created functions. So these functions may or may not have parameters. For this one, like what I said earlier, we normally do the function in the model. If we're talking about the MVC part of PHP, this is the model part. And here we have the function reg client, which we used when we want to register a client. And since we need the name, the first name and the last name, the email, and the password, and we use this parameters to be able to do this task or this function. And in real life, I compare it to doing any task. Or, for example, if we want to cook, then we need ingredients. And we cannot cook something if we don't have ingredients. So basically we need those things to do that function. And there are other tasks in life that we don't need materials or we don't need input or resources because we can just do them by ourselves. Like walking, we can walk without any materials. We don't need tools. But in other things like building a house, we need materials. So for me, that's similar to a function. If we don't need any outside tool or input, then we don't need parameter. But if we do need a tool or input to create that or to do that function, then we have to have those parameters there. And then after doing the task of that function, then we want to put return in the end, and then the variable or the value that we want that function to return. And if we call that function, then whatever the value uh, of that thing in the return keyword will be passed on to that part. For example, here we have functions.php. We built the build nav, in which we are trying to build a navigation bar. And this function here, it's like getting the categories. So if you'll notice here, there's get categories function being called inside this function. So it's like we don't have to type in that function again or type in all the code here. We just do it one time in some other area, and then we just call it here. So we save time. And then it returns the navigation list, the nav list. So when we call that nav list, then it will get this function, and whatever this function did will be passed on to that one, especially the value of this variable nav list. For example, for index.php, which is the controller of our products page, we called the nav list variable, which is from the build nav function. So if we notice, we save time because we don't have to type in the code again and again. We just call that function and it returns the value that we asked the function to do. So I think that's it, and thank you for listening. If you have questions, please feel free to ask. Thank you.